What's up everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going through a video that I've wanted to do for a long time. I've actually attempted this probably 3 times now. Each time's been a failure, and this time was also just about a failure, and I actually stumbled across something that made me realize that this is actually viable. Now, doing it this way is definitely not best practice. It's going to be messy, it's going to be a bit of a pain to work with, it'll be slower, but it is the probably easiest way to get into this. A lot of people will actually have these cabinets, so this is probably going to be one of the easiest ways that they're going to be able to get into vapor blasting, and probably for very, very low cost as well. Now you can do this even cheaper than I did it, but the result I was actually very surprised with. Now, one of the first things you're going to want to do with these is get rid of this. Some people have managed to make these guns work. I think they're slow. I've had mixed results with them, but I'm relatively unimpressed with them. So that one there is going to go in the bin. Next thing is you want to get a decent gun for them. And the one that seemed to work best for me, funnily enough, has been my 3D printed nozzle. I haven't quite worked out why yet. I've got to do a little bit more research. But I initially tried this with my brass style guns, and then when I came back to it to have another go, I'd used it on one of my other cabinets, and this one was just sitting here. So rather than going to peel it off the other cabinet, I just threw this one straight in. And to my surprise, it actually solved one of my problems. So I've gone to the 3/8 on the air and 1/2 inch on the slurry. I do want to go down and try the 3/8 on the slurry, because last time I was testing this, it actually functioned better with the 3/8 line. So I will be doing a bit more research. I will go down to the 3/8 line and see whether it improves things. You can see here I've got the light. I've thrown that out as well. It's absolutely useless. In fact, I haven't been able to notice any difference between using this light and just having this one over top. So I will come back and I will address that later. The purpose of this video here is to show that this cabinet could be used if you have one lying around. You can get them cheap. I've seen them advertised from time to time for about 20 bucks, mainly because they're cheap to begin with, and they don't work that well as a sandblaster either. So a lot of people will either have these sitting in the back of their workshop that they're not doing anything with because they're no good as a sandblaster, or they might just have it sitting there because they only use it for small jobs from time to time. But this video is showing the result that I can get from it, and then I'll probably do a whole bunch of subsequent videos over the next month or so, just fixing a whole bunch of the issues. So so far I've only done a few very small changes. Because I've thrown out the gun, the trigger's not there anymore, so I put on one of the regular solenoids that I use, and I have also, in these, they have one of these fittings here. I'll show a close-up of them later. I don't know how well it's going to focus, but that just screws in to the bottom of the cabinet like that, and obviously that's going to leak if it's sitting right at the lowest point, and that's just bolted in there. So I've gone and got a whole bunch of silicone to make sure that's sealed and that's not going to leak. So that's just under here. But other than that, I've cut the cable for the light in the top, and I don't know if you can see from this angle, but on the side there's some wires hanging out. So that goes to the pedal and that powers up the air solenoid. So I've just got the air coming in there. But now I'm going to move the camera around, and I'm just going to show what sort of finish you can get out of this, and then I'm going to demonstrate a few more of the issues that you'll be dealing with if you do this conversion to your own cabinet. So if you give me a moment, I'll get set up on that. Right, so we're set up in there. Gross. Not a fan of these gloves, but these are the factory gloves that come with it. Like I mentioned, I will change these in future. I don't like working with them, but this is a video demonstrating how well you can get these to work with very, very minimal changes. So we're all set up in there. The air's on. And yeah, there we go, just a quick test. This is going to fog up a lot because, like I say, the ventilation's no good at this stage, but I'll capture as much as I can, and then we'll come out afterwards and I'll show the results. Like I say, it's very, very slow, not the best to work with, but you can get some pretty good results out of it. So if it's just a small job here and there, I'll probably mention more than I should at this stage. If it's just a small job here and there, this will get it done. So here we go, I'll just demo it. You can see it's starting to come up now. As I mentioned, it is very, very slow, especially where you have these, the darker parts around here. So it will take it off, but as I mentioned, it's very, very slow. Now if you've just set this up and you haven't done any vapor blasting, it's probably quite manageable. But if you do already have a larger vapor blaster, or you've used one before, this will feel incredibly slow to you. But you can see it's already starting to come up. Now I've got a camera right in my way, so this is very hard for me to see. But I'll try and bring up as much as I can to show you while I'm working away here. So just every now and then you just got to kind of make sure that all that media resettles back into the bottom there. Yeah, this visibility is horrible. But as you can kind of see coming up now, let me just try and finish the spot so before the visibility gets too bad, you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Yeah, see, it's starting to come up. But a lot slower than a professional setup. But if you're just doing a carburetor or something else here and there, it'll actually work really, really nicely. And one of the parts I did while I was testing, very happy with the result. These still will use quite a bit of air, so you can hear my compressor's been running pretty much from the start. So it is slow, but you can see in that corner there, if I go through and take off the easy stuff, see, easy stuff has got no issue with whatsoever, but the harder aluminium oxide it will struggle a little bit with. So let's just see if I can show you. So I've just done a little bit, and you can see where I just blasted, it's still quite dull. Now that will come off, but it is quite slow going. And you can see there, it's very, very difficult to see because it keeps bouncing up onto the screen. But I will, once I'm done, or at least I'll do half of it or something, because this will take quite a while, and I'll pull it out and show you the finish. I want to document as much of it as possible, just so you can see that I'm not trying to pull a fast one on you, that you can get this finish out of this cabinet, and I haven't just gone and put it in one of the big ones. You can see a little bit of brass there as well, filling that hole.
Sorry, it's really hard to tell on there. I'll get a nice area cleaned up, and then without cutting it, I'll pull it out and show you the bit that I've done. This compressor's too small, like I said before. Bit of a pain to work with, so I'll let it build up a little bit more pressure. I'll do a little bit more at this point, and then without cutting, I'll pull it out and I'll show you how it's come up, and then I'll keep going. Get probably half. I might just do this half, get that half done, and then show you how that result came out in the end. So it should be just about there. Yeah, it should be enough. Tell you what, you definitely wouldn't want to be using this if you're working commercially. But I mean, it's relatively enjoyable, and it is coming up. Like I say, I've definitely been spoiled with my other cabinets. Having to stop and wipe the screen by hand is getting a bit annoying. It's actually almost easier to see through the screen than it is trying to look past the camera. Just a second. Been using one of the pedals from my larger cabinets, and it just happens to be the shape that you can see there we go, it's starting to come up. It just happens to be that shape that you push it away while you're using it, so I had to pull it back out from under the bench so I could reach it again. Very hard to see in there. So it's easily cleaned up. The problem is it's very hard to see. It's easier to see through the camera actually, where all these darkest spots are. See down there. So I'm missing a lot of them, but they are coming off. See, there's where it's still on, and that's where we've got it. So there's still a little bit of a tinge there. We're getting pretty close. Just want to get a few spots that are done really well so you get a better idea of the finish before I pull it out. But I mean, this video is going to start dragging on. Let me just quickly show. See, this is where it was before, and that's how it's coming up. So like I said, it is slow, but if you've got the time and you're willing to spend it, it will actually come up quite nice. So I'll do a little bit more and then we'll pull it out, and I'll just show you how it looks, the bits that I have done, and then I might film it, I might do it off camera. I'll go through and I'll clean up at least that half with this one. So here we go. Just do this bit really lightly so you can see what happens when you don't hit it for long enough. That'll probably be enough to show. I think there's enough on there now to give you an idea, and I can just show a couple of the issues. So now that it's sitting in there, let me just pick up my camera, and you can see here when you're blasting, because everything's blocked up, breeze out there, and on my shirt, I don't know if you're going to be able to see. Hang on a second, let me just round the hand out so I can do this properly. See down there, it's dripping really badly because these gloves fill up, and here as I run, see it blows out, and on my shirt there, because I'm leaning on it, it's soaking wet. I don't know how well you can see that. If I go around the back here, I'm assuming it's probably going to be leaking here too. Not this time, a little bit. They leak really badly out of here, and you constantly have to come in and take that little felt piece out and give it a clean. But other than that, just a couple of little leaks like here. That's leaking out from under here. You can see a little bit here as well, and that comes out from this joint along here. So that's one of the bigger issues for leaks. You can see under, it's not exactly drenched under there, but it will drip away, and also some of these cabinets will be sealed better than others. So let me just whip this out. Now you can see how this is starting to fill up here, and because the air had, I left this one loose because you can actually feel it. It starts crimping the gloves around your hands because of the pressure, because like I mentioned here, this here will fill up chock full of glass, and it won't breathe very well. So that's one of the issues that we'll deal with later. And here's the part here. So I just need to give this a rinse. My water bucket's not here at the moment, so we just take it through to the other side, and I'll rinse it off. I don't want to do this in one take, so you can see I haven't been cheeky and gone and thrown it at my other cabinet. So just excuse it being drawn out a little bit. You can kind of start seeing now already that it's coming up quite nicely. So just walk out into the sunlight. Here we go. So now that my screen, I'll probably have a better idea than I will at this stage, because the sun on the back of the screen I can't see anything. I'll just take it back inside so I can see better and point out a few things. I'll just shut this off as I go past so it's not going to interrupt us again. Right, so this part here where I hit a little bit harder, you can see where it's come up a lot better, and it doesn't have so much of that black tarnish on it. This was a bit near the end where I said I just hit lightly. See, that black tarnish is still on there. Along that edge there has come up very nice, and also there where I blasted, so blasted a little bit longer. And just flip it over for contrast, so that's how it started. So yeah, quite slow, but I'm going to put it back in, and without the camera on, I want to go through and touch up a few more of those pieces. Also, this black stuff is actually quite difficult to get off even in a properly set up cabinet. Sometimes it's so bad that you actually have to go and put in some crushed glass or aluminium oxide to get it off. So the fact that this doesn't actually have a pump in it, I'm actually quite impressed with how much of that's taken off. So yeah, like I mentioned, it is slow, but it will actually bring up a finish. There we go, I also did part of that top there, so let's try and find some better light for you. In fact, I may even give it a blow off if I can find my air duster. Here we go. And while I was doing that one-handed, I ended up shutting the camera off, so sorry about that. It's going to be a pain. Let me just do it on the floor. Some of the water off might be a little easier to see the finish. Yeah, there we go. See, that's actually starting to come up quite nice. It's just a pain trying to do it. Firstly, with that screen causing issues and getting all jammed up, doing everything one-handed. But I will finish that up. I'm going to leave this side for contrast. It's pretty horrible. But I'm going to go through, I'm going to finish doing this side, and then I'll come back and I'll take a quick video, and then we'll finish up with a bit of a discussion about some of the things you need to do, some of the things I'm going to do in future with this cabinet. But this will be an ongoing project. But as you can see there, that's actually pretty impressive with how that's coming up. Now this cabinet, here in New Zealand are about $250 new. You can buy them quite often here, New Zealand dollars, between $80 and $100. You can get them on a bargain every now and again, $50 or $60. But I mean, they're cheap all over the world, and quite often I see them in the corner of people's workshops and videos everywhere. So I'm going to get set up again. I'm going to finish doing this. I'll come back and then we'll finish with a discussion. Right, so I've just gone and finished that off. I didn't film it. This one's going to be, well, this video is going to be long enough as it is, and you really can't see that much. So I'm going to leave this side undone, and then when we get the visibility sorted a little bit, mainly with the lights and maybe some ventilation, if not this bit, we'll come back and do some more so you can actually see it working better. You can get a better idea of how fast it works. But that's how it comes up. So there's still a couple of spots that I missed, but you can see that shine in there is just absolutely beautiful. You can see a little bit mist down there, a little bit on that corner, and a little bit over there with that tarnish. I didn't get that properly, but by and large, that's come out really, really nicely. And like I say, it is slow, but thinking about it, it's probably not a lot slower than those cabinets will do while they're sandblasting anyway. So I'm really, really happy with how that's come up, and for some reason I'm trying to get my brass nozzles to work properly on it. I've had a bit of a go, but they just don't seem to function quite like these 3D printed ones. For some reason, these 3D printed nozzles just seem to work a lot better on it. I think it may have something to do with the channel on the inside, drawing in the media, but somehow those nozzles just seem to work really, really nicely. I will do some modifications and messing around with the brass ones, because I mean the longevity on the brass is much better, but for now looks like that 3D printed nozzle is going to be staying in there. So I will continue to develop that. I'm going to go and I'll tidy up the wiring. You can see the wiring hanging out there. It's just pretty much mocked together, but I'm going to tidy that up and change those gloves out, and see whether or not we can get the visibility to work a little bit better. Now I'm going to try and 3D print a lot of the parts, including mounting brackets for the lighting and stuff. And the reason I want to do it that way is so people all around the world can download them. They don't have to wait for me to ship them. We'll see. I may do kits that have everything to convert them, but of course I want to make them affordable. So if it's going to cost me too much doing it, and there's no margin in it for me to be able to spend the time, then I'll probably just put a parts list up. But ideally, I want to make things as accessible as possible, and hopefully we can get as many people out there vapor blasting as possible. So yeah, we'll just start walking around and get this out of the shot, and we'll discuss a few things that need to be modified to get your cabinets to work the way mine has. So let's do that.
Right, so a few of the issues with this cabinet, obviously they leak. So they're only meant to hold sand in. If you get a little bit of sand on the bench, no one's going to be that worried. They just sweep it off. Not a big deal at all. However, when you've got water in them, the water will pool in areas and you may get a constant drip, or could ruin a wooden workbench if that's what you're working with, especially if it's this type of fiberboard, or it's just messy altogether anyway. So obviously you want to deal with all the leaks that you can. Visibility is a problem. So just being like this is a relatively small cabinet. You get a lot of spray back, ends up on the screen. The screen's pretty flat, so you don't get much improvement with the Rain-X. So we're going to have to do something about that long term as well. The ventilation, these things have a pretty terrible filter on the side of them. May work as a sandblast cabinet, but they get clogged up, they get wet, the glass sits in it, they don't breathe very well, and it'll start trying to blow out corners. The water's catching around here, so it's blowing all out over your shirt. So that's something else you probably want to fix as well. So you've got silicon in your leaks, you want to get it to ventilate a bit better, and then you need to do something about the screen to keep it clear so you can see. The other issue is, as I mentioned before, the lights in these are really, really terrible. So in the past, I've just fixed strip lighting on the top here, so I'll probably come back and that'll be one of the future parts to this build, and I'll actually go through and I'll put some decent lighting on the top to make it a little bit easier to see. Now gloves. These gloves leak pretty badly. Worst part about them is they fill up and they drip down into where you're working, so you end up with just wet gloves, and it's not the biggest problem, but it's just uncomfortable to work with. So in future we'll come back and we're going to change out those gloves for something a bit better, and I'll probably link to where I purchased the ones for this. Other than that, that's pretty much all you really need. Once you get it to breathe better, you've got lighting, you've got all the leaks solved. That's pretty much all you need. Now this is never going to be the best cabinet. If you're just using it for a small job here and there, maybe you've rebuilt a carburetor on your own bike or something, or you've got a job that just doesn't quite match the outcome that you wanted, and you may just want to clean up a part here or there. This will be great for that. It's a little bit slow, but if you've got time, just sort of a lazy weekend rebuild or something, this is all you need. Now obviously for me, it feels exceptionally slow. Now I've been spoiled with the stainless cabinets and the bigger builds, which are far quicker. They're a lot nicer to deal with. You can see better. You're not constantly battling all these little issues. But if you're just doing a small job here or there, like I mentioned, you can get by and do it with this. So sorry about that. The compressor just clicked in, so I had to cut the video short there, and I'll just come back and finish what I was saying. So as I mentioned, with a few small changes like gloves, lighting, ventilation. It's not the best unit, definitely not best practice, but you can get a finish that you need. So if it's just a smaller job here and there, perfect. you can go back to using it as a sandblaster. All you've got to do is clean out the water and the glass, and you probably want to change the gun to something similar, maybe one of my brass nozzles, or any gun that doesn't have the trigger. You can effectively change this one straight up for that other gun, and clean all the media out, all the water out, go back to some sand, and you can have it functioning as a sandblaster again. None of the changes that I'm doing will prevent you from doing that. In fact, it'll probably work better with one of these guns, the brass guns, or a different gun, and the solenoid and foot pedal on the side, and then with the lighting, it's definitely going to be an improvement over how they come out of the factory. But other than that, we've demonstrated the finish that you can get from them. These are very, very simple, probably the quickest way you can get into it. A lot of people will have this sitting in the back of their workshop. They don't work that well from factory as a sandblaster, so maybe it's sitting in the back of your workshop being forgotten about. So if you do have one, or you can get them pretty cheap. Like I mentioned, I've seen them advertised for 20 bucks or so. So it can be a very cheap, easy way to get into vapor blasting. It takes up almost no space. You can see it's all bench top mounted. And once you finish with it, you can clean out all the media, dry off the glass, give it a rinse, and then chuck it back in storage and use it later. So if you're doing a small job here or there, this is probably perfect. Absolute fraction of the cost of a stainless build, or getting a floor mounted sandblasting cabinet and making all the modifications there. You don't actually have to make any changes. You can get this straight from the hardware store, slap on a foot regulated air solenoid, so you get rid of the trigger on the gun and just go to one of these sandblasting nozzles, and you can be up and running with a matter of hours. If you've got access to a 3D printer, you can buy just the files, that way you don't have to wait for shipping. So a solenoid, even one out of a dishwasher like that, or a washing machine, the inlet, water inlet solenoid, you could use one of those if you wanted. I prefer the 12 volts on these systems, just a little bit safer, but if that's what you had, you could use that as well. I'll cover all that in later videos, and I'll probably document it in a book as well. But that's all I wanted to go over today. Next time I'll probably do the lighting or the ventilation, and I'll just break that up into a few videos over the next month or so as I do them. So this will be an ongoing project. There are still a lot of other things that I want to do. My living expenses have recently gone up for a number of reasons, so I'm probably going to take a few days a week and go get some part-time work as well, just to supplement. The sales of the cabinets and these have been going very, very well, but living costs, like I say, have gone up, so I'm having to adapt for that. So I won't be doing a single video with these builds. I'll break that up over the next month. But other than that, I hope you've enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.